Welcome to the tea party. Don't be a party crasher. Just come chill with this Mad Hatter. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the channel. And today I'm going to be talking about Resident Evil 3. I do have another topic I will be, discussing in a little bit. So don't be surprised if I upload 2 videos this week, or I end up doing one really soon next week. But anyway, I want to talk about Resident Evil 3. I've had this topic for a while. I originally was just going to split this into 2. Will be a little bit mixed in my opinion about Resident Evil 2 Remake, but mainly about Resident Evil 3 Remake. And the main thing I'm going to be talking about is how I do not think the problem is cutting content. A lot of people are saying it's with content and how they're just cutting it and making the game shorter, and I really just don't think it really comes down to just making the game shorter. I just think, at least for me, I feel like the major problem is just detail and effort they actually put in the game. But if you disagree, I'd love to hear why you completely disagree with my opinion. And what name something that you actually didn't like about Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 Remake, sorry. Or something you actually loved about it. I'd love to hear something you disliked or something you loved about it. But personally, not too big a fan of the game myself. I've never played it, but I've seen a shit ton of other people play it, and I just don't like what I've heard about it, and it's extremely short, so I'm waiting for it to get cheaper. But anyway, as I say, the main problem is not content, but I feel like so with Resident Evil titles, it's kind of a weird topic, right? Because some people love the classic Resident Evil games. You got people who like the first one, the remake, 0, you got 2, you got 3, and then some people like 4, 5, 6, right? And those 4, 5, and 6 are not really survival horror. 7 kind of goes back to horror and survival horror. Revelations does kind of do it in the first one. The second one doesn't do it as much. But 4, 5, 6 are not that horror, really at all. And yet people love 4. People love 5. 6 is a different story, but I'll get into that a little bit later. They don't have the core thing that makes Resident Evil, which is survival horror. Puzzles, item management could be a thing. Something that the Silent Hill actually doesn't have. It's a little rival there. You have to conserve ammo and health. And backtracking could be a thing as well. And that's usually a thing that you do, and there's extra stuff I don't get into, but that's usually the main concept of Silent Hill. Resident Evil. But not every Resident Evil game follows this structure. It's very different, right? So that's for the first Resident Evil game, it follows it to a T. That's why, that's literally what it is, right? It has challenge, has item management, has ammo management as well. You have puzzles. That's core Resident Evil. Then we have Resident Evil 1, the remake, which, of course, I'm also considering the remastered, which it's basically the exact same thing, only it changed a few things from the first one, because it is a remake, but, comes down to its gameplay itself and the story. I'm pretty sure it's a little bit longer, and it added a few new enemies and a new kind of defense mechanic. But still, the core concept of core Resident Evil was still right there. You still had the puzzles, you still had the survival horror, you still had the item management, you still have to save ammo, right? The second one is the exact same thing, only gave more content because it actually allowed you to play. It gave you a reason to play 4 times. For each scenario, so you could do Leon A, Leon B, or Claire A, Claire B, and then you could do the vice versa and do it, play the game 4 times. And you have the 2 extra bonus modes, right? So it kind of felt like it gave you more replay value out of the game than normally you would just play it through once, right? Like on the original, you played Chris, and you play Jill. If you want to play on a harder difficulty, you could. But that's where basically the other stuff like Invisible Enemy and Real Survivor, where they were just real survival. It was just harder difficulties, basically. We got Resident Evil 0, which kind of changed up a little bit of things. It made item management so much harder, and a lot of people complain about it because you did have a second character that you would play with at the same time, and the problem was you couldn't give your they both had a good size of inventory space, 6, but you didn't have item box anymore, so you'd have to leave items on the floor. A lot of people didn't like that. But it still had, the core concept. It still had, out of anything, I think 0 is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest one. I personally, from my experience playing it through, I think it was the second hardest. Actually, I could probably say first hardest. Yeah, I could actually say it's the hardest one. Maybe not on your first run, but for me, I didn't have. It was definitely second on my first one, but it's definitely one of the hardest ones. I would be tied with another one I'll say later. But yeah, it's definitely one of the harder ones, and it really pushes you. And we have, I'm gonna say Code Veronica before I say Resident Evil 3. So Code Veronica is like a lot. It's also very difficult. It has a shit ton of backtracking. And that's what people hate. You have to do so much backtracking, but it's still Resident Evil. It's still very good. They give you a lot more weapons, which is nice. So you have a lot more variety. You know, do what you use. A lot more ammo. It doesn't really give you much content concerning to like 3 and 2, even 0. It just didn't feel that long. So, but it's still like there's no real reason for me to even want to come back and play the game again. But it was still a very fun game. And then we have 3. Of course, I'm talking about the original, not the remake. Same when I was saying 2 over there. 3 was a kind of a turn. If people, not a lot of people know this, but it's not that like survival horror like it was before. It gives you a shit ton of ammo. It also gives you the option for first Resident Evil game to do this, and they don't actually do this all the way back until 7, where it actually lets you kind of pick what ammo you want. It will allow you to kind of like get gunpowder and craft if you want handgun ammo, shotgun ammo, grenade launcher, and all that shit. So it was actually I really like that, how it was kind of like you would pick. And 3 was a game that was very much risk reward. It was very much you get to choose how you want to play the game. That's what I loved about 3. I never personally really played 3 all that much, and that's just because I never had the time where like really sat down and played it. Like I have it to like play it right now, but it's just because sometimes I have like weird issues with the game. Like not like the game, but like the game itself has weird issues when I try to play it. But it's a game that's really on risk reward, and that's what I love. Like you get to choose your routes, you get choices, it affects the game, and it gives you more reason to play the game. But I'll get back into that. You got Resident Evil 4. That's where it kind of really jumped again into more action. It still had some horror elements, I guess. You had some few jump scares, had some good bosses. Also, Resident Evil 0 has the hardest bosses in any game. Any Resident Evil game easily. But, yeah. So 4 had a lot more. It had the merchant. That was sick. But I think it was just mainly just, like, it was different. Like, it was a big step, but it was really different. It was like how 3 was being different. Like, it stopped being as scary, but it was different. You had Nemesis chasing you down the entire time. That was different. We had gunpowder. That was different. We can actually walk up the stairs. That was different. This was before the Resident Evil 1 remake. Then we had 5, which was co-op, but that was also different, right? I bet if Resident Evil 5 did not have co-op, it would not be nearly as popular as it was before. Let's be real here. Like, if it did not have co-op, would anyone be? I'm pretty sure Resident Evil 5 is still the best. Is this like the highest selling one still? I think it is. And would it be if it didn't have co-op? Fuck no. Because it had co-op. It was different. Because, you know, co-op. And then 6 flatlined because they tried to please too many people. So 6 tried to be horror. If you remember Leon's story, that's actually supposed to represent more horror. So I have a horror. You got Chris, was supposed to be still the action side of Resident Evil 5. We got Jake, which was supposed to be more of Resident Evil 3. Because, you know, getting chased down by Nemesis, Resident Evil 3, kind of had the same feel there. It's not the action feel, but not as much as Chris's. And then Ada, I don't know where Ada actually fits in there. I think it's kind of a, I don't actually know. I feel like more Resident Evil 4, but I could be wrong. But they basically try to pick every single, like, element that people loved and just throw it in the game, but it just didn't work well because it wasn't different. It was everything we've already done before, but better. Leon, you could take the whole thing and put it into, like, Resident Evil 2, right? It's basically everything in Leon's scenario is basically Resident Evil 2. Like, a good chunk in the beginning just represents, like, the way he acts and stuff like that. They reference even the Raccoon City incident. It's all Resident Evil 2 right there. Why not just play Resident Evil 2? Right? It just doesn't feel good, like, at least for me, like, it doesn't feel like a game, like, why would I play this, where I could play a game that did this whole little segment, but, like, better and more content out of it. And same with, like, you know, like Chris's scenario and Jake's and Ada's. I guess if you consider it like kind of like RE4 when you played Ada, that is. But it didn't work out. It didn't work out. It tried, but it didn't work out. Resident Evil 7 is first person. It tried to bring survival horror back. I think I accomplished it. I'm not a big fan of it personally as a Resident Evil title, but I think it's a great game. And I'm not gonna get into that because that's my opinion, and I just like personally, I don't know. I don't feel like it did anything for the story, and seeing, no, especially with Chris at the end, shit. Yeah, that's not Christopher. Anyway, let's see, Resident Evil 2 remake now. I'm not gonna go into the Revelation games. I'm sorry, I'm not, because those are just too similar. Like the Revelations game, they did good stuff. They also, like, they really did, I think they did a good job bringing survival horror back, especially the first one. Not really the second one, but the first one did a really good job. And it's very underrated, and people hate on that too much. Especially when the enemies, they complain about the enemies, yet Resident Evil 7 used the exact same fucking enemies. If you pay attention, the movements are very similar, and the models are the exact same. But hey, that's my like. But anyway, Resident Evil 2 remake. It kind of goes back. It kind of uses everything that people loved. You know, really brought back survival horror. Like truly brought it to a Resident Evil. It had the over shoulder camera view that I preferred over the first person because I hated the blocking mechanic because it made it too easy. Unless you're playing on Madhouse, which I basically played on because I didn't see a reason not playing on Madhouse. I mean, I can't really think of much really complaints. This game looks amazing. Well, from a gameplay standpoint, it was absolutely amazing. I can't really see a problem with it. Only one thing I could say was I hated how you couldn't do normal mode and play with ink ribbons. You had to do hardcore. So I was already playing hardcore on my first run because I wanted to use the ink ribbons. But my complaint would be with the content, right? And I think this could be a reason why they cut content Resident Evil 3 remake. They didn't, like, after you beat the first run, you're doing the exact same thing you are doing on the second run in Resident Evil 2 remake. Like, you are literally doing the exact same thing. You get maybe a different weapon, you might fight an extra boss at the end, but you're doing the exact same thing. The story doesn't change much if you were to do it the other way around. You could say, oh, well, you know, it's still a good game. I mean, yeah, I never said it was a bad game. I think it's a bad remake, and I really do, because I'm also comparing it to the first remake standard. They did a good job for the first remake. Why was this? Well, why was the main, like, every Resident Evil game has had like a core concept going for it, right? So I can't really say about the original, but I can say, like, you know, the first Resident Evil remake game had Christmas heads. The Zero had like 2 characters you play at the same time. 2 had A/B scenario. 3 had the risk versus reward in fighting Nemesis, right? You would choose to fight him, and you get a reward at the, like, you know, you get like a weapon or a weapon part over ammo, or you leave and you keep ammo but not get the weapon part, or maybe you get health, or maybe you go one route that has a different variety of enemies than the other route, or maybe this route has weapons and ammo and the other route doesn't, but yet you get to your objective faster. So it had a lot of stuff like that. Code Veronica was difficult and had a ton of backtracking. It also had a lot of low-key choices that you can make that would affect your game, like what weapons you would get, but it doesn't tell you. It's very secretive. Resident Evil 4, the merchant, and, like, you know, more action. 5, co-op. 6 was a mix of all of it. 7 was first person, right? And then it just doesn't feel like it did anything, like, at least it didn't feel like they cut the content down, but it didn't really feel like it was giving me anything new as well. At least that was what bothered me. That's what also a big problem I have with Resident Evil 3 remake, is that it's basically 2, but they removed the defense mechanic to put in dodging, which everyone hates. They gave us a scripted version of Nemesis, and that was the thing in Resident Evil 3, is that Nemesis wasn't scripted. That's what made him great. And the risk versus reward Nemesis was also great, because he would attack you out of nowhere, you had a chance to fight him or not. And when you had that choices to fight him, when you saw that kind of, like, screen flashing, it was amazing, because now you're like, do I want to fight it and risk, like, getting something good? Do I have enough ammo right now? Do I want to go to, like, the news place or, like, this other place? It's like, but if I go here, then it's like, well, now if I go there, I can't really go to the other place. Also, apparently exploration in the 3 is also pretty bad. The remake, that is. So I wouldn't say, like, the problem is cutting content. I'm saying the problem is how it doesn't do anything that makes it Resident Evil, like, this Resident Evil title different from other Resident Evil titles, aside with cutting content. Because if you're just cutting content, if they were to add, so let's say if Resident Evil 3 added co-op, it would have been really, I think people wouldn't complain as much if it had co-op. If from start to finish, if you were playing as Carlos, and it was that short, I don't think people would complain. Especially that it would be all new on this engine, because we haven't done a co-op on this engine yet, besides, you know, Resistance. So, the point is, it's not just content. It never really is just content. I really think it really comes down to what makes it different. Because I think a game could cut a shit ton of content out and still be amazingly good, even if it's short. But they have to go the extra mile to really make it worth. And that's my problem with Resident Evil 3 Remake, is it didn't. It even like threw in Resistance, because Resistance was supposed to be a standalone game, and they ended up putting it with Resident Evil 3 Remake. And now it's like some people don't even like Resistance. So they're getting a game that's extremely short, that doesn't really do anything different, besides add these mechanics like dodging, and no, they don't even have a mercenaries mode, making the game feel scripted. Nemesis apparently isn't even that scary or hard to fight. They take out the risk versus reward choices, right? And to top that all off, 3 is one of the games of Resident Evil that doesn't actually feel that horror puzzles. It doesn't have that many puzzles either. And to do that and to cut so much content out and not do anything different and lose the core concept of Resident Evil in general, which is, you know, puzzles and item management, it really hurts the Resident Evil title. My main point is that I think, like, if Resident Evil game can do something good, like something different, it can be good. Even if they end up removing the core Resident Evil concept, like 4 did and 5 did and 6 did, it could still be good. And I say core because this, you know, this is the first Resident Evil game basically established this as like a core thing that they were doing, survival horror, right? And if they could just stick with that, like they can either stick with that, but if they don't do that, they need to do something else that's better. And hopefully with 8, it seems like they're going to do, like, you know, they're going back to doing, like, you know, actual survival horror. A lot of people complain about the werewolves, but personally I don't think the werewolves will be that bad. And that's just because we don't know how they're going to actually play in the game. They could just replace hunters. A lot of people are just all like, oh, the werewolves are replacing zombies. I don't recall them ever being stated that they're replacing zombies. We know werewolves are in the game, but they could be the new hunters. Would that be bad? I don't see it being that bad. We fought fucking monkeys in 0, right? So I don't see how having werewolves in the game would be that bad. I mean, it might be annoying, but we don't know how they play yet. I mean, I found out, what was it? The most annoying enemy I fought was in 0 too. It was that damn frog fucking hunter thing. It would just eat you up and you're dead. People didn't complain about that, so yeah. But yeah, how I feel is, I feel like especially they didn't even decide to add extra content, which I feel like they should have gave us free stuff. But for them to not do it, I really hopefully think that they're gonna really just be not making these mistakes again, and really just be pushing to make Resident Evil 4 Remake better, because apparently I think they're doing 4. So hopefully they make it actually really good, and they take it really actually seriously this time. Because I have no idea why they did Resident Evil 2 Remake last year, and then they just instantly were like, let's do Resident Evil 3 Remake. And they still have, like, you know, the exploration of the whole Raccoon City, which people expect. They expected to have Nemesis actually be a thing. I already knew they were going to do the risk versus reward thing because, like, the core part of Resident Evil 2 was in there when they had A/B scenario. That's kind of gone, so I wasn't expecting much. But anyway, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed I guess you could say kind of rant. I was mainly just throwing my fucking opinion out here about how I feel about the content thing. A lot of people complain about it. I did, like, it's supposed to be out a while back, so I feel bad. But yeah, this is mainly just to say, like, I don't believe that a game always needs a ton of content when it comes to length. When it comes to length, that's what I'm saying. Not length. I think it really depends on, like, what they're doing with what they got. It could have been better if, like, even if it was the same length, but they really made it worth it. And also pricing, because it was pretty, like, I mean, even, like, the price, come on. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys take care. It's kind of a shortish video. I mean, those videos are probably going to be around this time, and I definitely have another one out pretty soon. I don't know when, but I shouldn't take long to write it out. Shit, like, I got probably gonna, fuck, no Peanuts, no Stallone movie? Shit, I'm out of here.